Okay, so like I said, the survey went out on the 17th, deadline of the 31st. I think a few more trickled in up to the 2nd. So last Friday, that was the last time I checked it. I haven't checked it yet today. But we received, hold on. And to be fair, like I haven't aggregated the data yet. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to do that. I might just put it all into a spreadsheet. But the total amount we've received so far, and some of the surveys, I mean, I just kind of was glancing at them as I was, putting them all together. We've gotten 43
Nice.
surveys. Some of them are only like partially completed, so we'll have to deal with that. But
Right.
I think, I mean, we'll use the data as best we can. I was really keeping a lookout for the consensual tow data because based on the tow bill change, we have to make that comparison when making our recommendations. We got to factor in consensual versus non-consensual tows. Some of the ones I saw were pretty low. I was actually surprised at how low some of them were. But yeah, no, my hope is to go ahead and just wrap it up, identify any residual ones that may have trickled in past the August 31st deadline. And my hope is to have all the data aggregated and potentially even circulated to the team before our next meeting next Wednesday. I know that was the goal. And I think we can probably meet it if I can figure out how to aggregate this in an appropriate way.
Right.
So,
Well, and it's difficult too. I mean, because when you're talking percentages, like I just went over a year's P&Ls going through that, trying to fill that out.
yeah.
And those percentages fluctuate drastically throughout the years. I mean, you lose 10 employees or gain 10 employees. That can change those percentages actually quite a bit.
Okay.
I had a little bit of fun with that because I just pulled out old P&Ls and just kind of went through and
Yeah. I mean, we'll just have to kind of see how it all looks. I have a couple ideas for how we can, come up with some averages, work a little Excel spreadsheet magic and try to get some averages for certain percentages for certain things. I mean, that might be the best way to try to do it, but because again, I think it's been a while since I've looked at the cost model. Let me see here. Where's the final? Oh, here it is. And I can share this if you all want. If it will open. There we go. So yeah, there's actual figures in the model, like actual cost figures. So
right.
like $2,000, $850, that kind of stuff. So I know we do have some of the questions in the survey were actual costs for things. So I think that will help. And I think we can compare that to some of the ones that are in here. It's pretty clear that a lot of the figures that were put into here, or at least in the part of it I'm looking at. Do you want me to share so you guys can both see?
If you want to, yeah.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, so here is. So here's the cost model. Hold on, let me see if I can get a better view for you here. Okay. Let's see. So let me see if I can zoom in here. Here we go. There we go. So you can see there's actual numbers that they put together. You can see it looks like they were relying on the Utah. Well, you were there, John.
Right.
The Utah
it's pretty much kind of going off the Utah study.
Okay.
because at the time they were thinking, okay, well, Utah and Denver, or Colorado are kind of the same. You got big cities, you got outskirt areas. Didn't want to recreate the wheel, and so they kind of used this model and kind of fill in the blanks. Look at it, see, some things you'll see that are a little higher than Utah. Some things are lower, like the permit fee and things like that were lower in Colorado than they were Utah. And there was different types of ways of doing all that, trying to plug in our numbers that we had and coming up with those. The problem is you can dissect that so many different directions. It's really difficult to do. Because really it can change drastically on what your company does.
Mm-hmm.
When we were when I started filling out this survey, just doing, I just pulled up half a dozen end of year P&Ls, kind of just went through it, and the drastic differences between year to year is amazing. So if on my survey, I could fluctuate that so many different ways on year to year. That's what's so wild about it.
Yeah. All right. And then we got office expenses. I think we looped that all into, what was it? Property? Is that the category, like property or something?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that also had like taxes and mortgage and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I did like rent, property,
yeah.
ownership, mortgage, property taxes, improvements, things like that. Yeah.
Let's see, employee expenses.
So all we did is put labor costs. So I guess you'd have to kind of put all of that into that.
I guess the question we're just going to have to ask ourselves is, based on the survey we came up with, is this still something we want to use? Or do we want to just kind of create our own and come up with just kind of a basic framework? And we could start on like the 10,000 GVWR or less, which is most tows, I'd say. And then once we kind of figure out what we want to do with that, we can then just apply that same metric, whatever the case may be, and apply it across the board as the GVWR scales up. Because
we could try that. See what. Really, we won't know till we do it. We just plug that information in, right? And then it would give us an end result, and we can kind of see just by the the current heartbeat of the industry if it's ballparked or not.
Yeah. Okay. Because they break it out into light duty, so 10,000 GVWR or less, or a vehicle that does that type of tow. Because this is kind of the same as that first sheet, but it's a little different.
Well, and what we can do is I'm pretty sure in the last go around what we did is we gave it an average. And so I guess we would have to take the survey and then just take an average of the survey, get your low, get your high, and then what your average is. And then we could plug the average numbers in and see where it's at.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the best way to aggregate the survey data where it's easier to use this sheet.
Right.
If we want to use it.
Well, it's going to be kind of rough for you. You're going to have you're going to have to go with, get your lowest price, right? Then your highest price.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to figure out where they come in at. And then you're going to have a medium.
Well, I was going to say, I could do like a mean, median, and mode.
All right. Because it's going to be all over the place, right? It's going to fluctuate probably, I'm going to guess, say $50 to $75 in your consent world. It'll probably fluctuate 50 to 75.
The one thing I haven't quite wrapped my head around, and again, I haven't even really put a spreadsheet together or anything yet because I was still waiting for the surveys to come in. But what I'm having a little trouble with is not just coming up with those figures and doing like the mean and all that stuff, but also trying to figure out if we want to somehow apply like a weighted average to it. Because, whatever is being put out there by a carrier who has 10 vehicles versus what's being, the figures that are being put out there by a carrier that has just a single vehicle or 2 vehicles. We got to take that into consideration because that is, a factor to consider.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I haven't quite figured out how might be best to do that. But like I said, my hope is I can do it over the course of the next week, and then, get it to everybody so that we can discuss it in more detail. Or maybe we don't have to circulate it. Maybe I can just share the aggregated data during next week's meeting for everybody to look at. I don't know. It depends on if I have time to put it all together.
Right.
Because it's going to take a while to do it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you're going to have to try and think the easiest way for you to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have, if you did it together or all separated, you'd have to have 43 different lines.
Well, no, yeah,
right?
no, I think I would, that's how I'm going to input the data. But the question is, how am I going to do anything with it to kind of show some more generic figures and info? Because I think that'll be more digestible to people on the task force if they just see more simplistic figures as opposed to a whole bunch wide range of percentages and stuff. I don't know how helpful they'll find that.
Right.
So I was hoping to just kind of put it in the simplest terms possible to kind of make sense of the data, as opposed to just saying, here's all the raw data, figure it out. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Do you have any thoughts? Do you have any thoughts, Captain Dittman?
No, other than a lot of patience.
Of course. All right. Well, yeah, I was hoping more people would show up to this meeting. I know it was optional. It's just a work group, but yeah, I guess my biggest concern was that I thought maybe based on the survey data and how it went out and the kind of answers we're going to get in response might not be very plug and play friendly with this sheet.
Right.
And I still, to a certain extent, feel that way. I think we can kind of maybe make it work a certain way. But again, we went at it from a more blunt standpoint because, here they have broken out management costs, administrative costs, business licensing costs, and, whereas we were just, pretty simple. I think we broke it out into labor and some other things.
I think it was broken more down into categories.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't spelled out each individual thing because
Mhm.
there's so many little each individual things. That would be a complete nightmare trying to sift through all that.
Yeah. So I know they did when they put this together, it was based largely on the Utah study, but I know, or at least I heard there was a survey that went out then too. Do you remember how that data was used?
It was similar to that, and it was terrible because here again it fluctuated so drastic between the one truck operators that are running under the wire without the overhead, those costs versus a larger company's costs were drastically different. So we kind of just came with a medium saying, all right, the average low 3 truck company. And the point at that time was everyone wanted to make the pricing lower. And so we went with a 3 truck minimum company. And that kind of put that on the lower end of that scale. And then but that also was before the big insurance hikes and everything else. That was 2014, 15. So the insurance hikes hit hard in 16. I mean, they went 300% in towing. And that was all the insurance, from truck insurance, comp insurance, all of it just skyrocketed because they started getting all that federal data that said one of the dangerous jobs in America. You know, one tower killed every 6 days in the country, and so it shot all of that through the roof.
Okay. Well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. This is probably the worst possible time we could do this exercise with everything that's happened over the last couple years. And
well, that's why the
survey
survey's for 21, right? So
yeah, it is.
If I take my P&Ls current today versus 21, it is. I mean, it's scary. It really is scary. I'd almost like to turn one in for 22 just to see, so you could see what the first 9 months has looked like. It's pretty tough.
Well,
the fuel alone has just been a killer.
Well, and I know we tried to somewhat capture that in asking, what kind of percentage hikes we've seen between, what was it, 2015 and 2021, I think.
Right.
So we'll get kind of a feel for what kind of increases that they're disclosing. So,
well, and that's the other thing when you're talking one truck operators, very rarely you're going to have that detailed of P&Ls, right? Because they're running out of their truck. They have a cell phone in their pocket and a tow truck, and so when they're not regulated like that, I mean, they're pretty much just running out of the seat of their pants. I mean, they can make enough money to put gas in the truck and keep on going. And so the bigger companies will have more of that percentage for you, more of a standard business practice, P&Ls, things like that.
Yeah,
and that's one of the biggest problems we had back then, is having enough data to support the claims.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, we did a thing on credit cards, and in 2014, and there was a thing where, how much were you spending in your credit card usage? And most towers had no clue what they were spending out every month in credit card. The fees you got to pay back.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I think most of these sheets look the same for the most part. It's like the same kind of data gets captured.
Right.
So that's medium duty. This one is medium heavy. And then we have heavy, rotator.
Now, the one thing we didn't do is we didn't ask the number of toes, right? We asked percentage of toes.
Yeah.
So that's where you can really skew the numbers hard if you don't have a number. If you start adding numbers, if you look in the survey where it says how many toes, right? If you put in, say, 100 toes versus 500 toes, the percentages drastically change with that. So it's kind of skewed information when you're looking at it, because you can get a false reading there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. Okay.
It's kind of a crapshoot. It really is.
Well, and I mean, it's the information's going to be just the best we can do.
Yeah.
And we got some depreciation costs in here. Looks like they did it just for light duty and medium duty. Oh, there's rotator. Okay, so they might have done all the categories.
Yeah, there was all the categories were done.
Okay, yeah, there's medium. Okay. Well, I have a feeling whatever we're putting together probably won't be this intricate, but yeah, hopefully the data we get in these surveys will be sufficient to give us all a general idea of kind of what works, or what we can possibly do with the maximum rates.
I would be curious to see on some of those surveys on how those percentages dial in, to see if there's, when I look at my percentages, I can back that up with a P&L, right? I can show you exactly what that is. You can run the calculator, come up with that number. I'd like to see if there's discrepancies in those percentages with other companies, how they would justify those discrepancies. I mean, I can get it if you're off, say 10%, give or take, right? But if they're off way beyond that, then there would definitely be some concern that I would have with the information. Now, granted, we're not, that's the other thing, is we can't have the surveys individually. So that kind of falls back on your plate. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I would hate to see if someone is saying, oh, that percentage cost me, 75%, and that number's really not 75%. That number's more like 30%, right?
Well, and I think that's why we set it up. At least some of the questions that we had on the survey. One was, what percentage of your income, I think it was, or what
revenues.
Revenues, that's it, yeah.
Yep.
What percentage goes towards, all these different categories? And then it corresponds that with another question that says, okay, what are your actual costs for these same categories?
Right.
So, and I have a lot of the surveys I've seen come in do address both of those questions. So I think we can sort through that and kind of get hopefully a better feel for, exactly, or at least close enough to kind of what some of these costs are.
Right.
Not just from a percentage basis, but from an actual, dollar figure basis as well. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out, what this report's going to end up looking like. Because yeah, there's so much to think about.
Yeah. Well, and if you're going through there and you have mine, if you find that you see a question marks there that you need clarification on to help you dissect information better, don't hesitate to get with me, and I'll give you the best answer I can give you.
Okay. Yeah, I should be able to sort through it. Okay. I'm not too worried about it. It's just, I know that it'll be no trouble to put all the data on a spreadsheet, but it's just what I might want to do after that to kind of make a little more sense of the data that's there. That I think is the part that's much more complicated.
Sure.
And I'm still trying to figure out how that's going to work. Because again, I'd love to go into the meeting next week just showing every member, okay, for labor costs, here's your average cost, and here's your average percentage of revenues that cost goes towards.
Right.
And that's here's the corresponding percentage as applied to the overall revenues, and then just kind of go through that on all the different data points. That's what I'd like to do. But again, I still like the idea of maybe even applying a few extra layers on top of that, and giving some weighted percentages, again, based on operating size and things like that. Because I do think that plays into it, and it makes the data a little more substantive. But that's just something fun I get to figure out.
Yeah.
So,
well, the best of luck to you there.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of work, and especially trying to get it done in the next week. There's just been so much going on. But we'll go ahead and get it done. Well, is there anything else anybody wants to talk about? I know most of why I suggested this particular work group was, again, to look at this cost model and try to figure out, a way to use the data we're going to have. And again, maybe it's something as simple as, dumbing this section down, for example, to be more reflective of the data we have.
Right.
Or maybe we can just cut it down a little bit. So like, we can combine these ones, for example, and then, combine, that one with this one and, some of these other ones. So I do think there's a way we can do it.
Yeah, I think so.
I wish I had the data aggregated already, because then that would really give us a idea of how we can plug it in potentially.
Well, that's the thing is, I don't know, when I was talking about, doing a P&L, you could see every aspect, like all those different costs, but there's so much that it doesn't cover.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things in a P&L that doesn't cover. That covers some of it and covers your basics, but it doesn't cover everything. And so that's where you get those. I mean, when I looked at that, I had like 6% that I cannot account for on those questions. So when I was going through the survey, I had 6% of my income. I could not show with that because there was other costs that were not asked for. So I had 6%. So, I mean, there was lots of things: advertising, losses, utilities, phones, and there was a lot. 6% was quite a bit when you're talking $4.5 million, 6% of that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I know I got my work cut out for me. Is there anything else we want to talk about? I was hoping maybe a couple other people would trickle in, but I assume if they're not here by now, they probably are not coming.
Matt, there's a guy, Matt. Does he have anything?
Oh yeah. Looks like we do have a member of the public in here in case he has any questions for us.
Hi, thanks for acknowledging me. I am just a reporter listening in to the public meeting, kind of on the background. And I don't think I have any questions right now.
Cool, welcome.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. We don't have a lot of members of the public dropping in, so we appreciate that. If you have any other things you're looking for, we do have a towing task force website. Here, I'm going to go ahead and insert a link. Here, let me stop presenting this sheet. I'm going to go ahead and post a link for you, Mr. Bloom. If you want to check it out, feel free. Recordings for all of our meetings are there, minutes, other things are all there. So if you want to take a look, feel free. Hold on, almost there. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just post this in the chat. Feel free to go there and check out some of the things that we've done. And like I said, the recordings to all our meetings are there. It lists our entire membership. There's some statutory references, that give this task force its powers, things of that nature. So feel free to take a look if you're interested.
Sweet.
And all the notices for all of our meetings are posted here at this website. So you can see if you go there, you'll see the one that's up for this meeting right now. And that's where the link is and all that stuff. I don't know why I'm telling you this. This is probably how you got here in the first place.
No, you're totally fine. That's great to have. In one other, maybe I do have one question. I was directed to something called the, oh gosh, I just had it up. Sorry. It was like the consumer assistance summaries page.
Yeah, that's something I'm familiar with. It's not something my team. So I'm the chief of transportation for the Public Utilities Commission. It's not something my team does. It's kind of related to our team and the work we do,
Okay.
but it's actually our consumer affairs team at the commission. That's their data. So all the most complaints that we receive, not just for towing, but for all different types of transportation carriers, all different types of other public utilities like electric, telecom, gas pipeline, all those. They are the repository for all of those complaints that come in. And
Cool.
so they track that data, I believe, on a monthly basis. And they post different reports that our system runs, just logging all the different, and it's categorized out. So you can look at that and kind of see what the last month or the last year has been like, depending on how deep you want to dig. So yeah, that data is there, available for public consumption.
Nice. Yeah, I'm trying to find out or understand better, like what data shows kind of like the scale of the number of complaints that Dora gets from people who've been towed, or believe they've been towed illegally. So I'm trying to kind of zero in on what number or what data set illustrates that best.
Mhm. Yeah, I believe, and I've looked at those consumer affairs reports before. I think it just lists like by company name. I forget what all data is in that report, but I know probably if you were looking like for the last year, for example, you could just print out the last year's worth of reports and then just count them all up. I mean,
Totally. Cool. Great. Well, thanks for letting me take over this meeting for a second. Thanks.
not at all. Not at all. Okay. Well, Captain Dittman, Mr. Connolly, anything else either you want to discuss before we just kind of phase out for today? It's I don't know that there's much else for us to do until we get that data aggregated and try to plug it into the model.
And we don't have a quorum to make any votes on anything. So
Yeah. Well, and this was just an informal meeting anyway, so. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I heard about your retirement, Captain Dittman. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you. I guess the next meeting will be your last one. That's next Wednesday, the 14th, 2 p.m. We'll look forward to seeing you there. And then any word on who's going to replace you?
No, hopefully have some information by next week, but
Okay.
But we'll see.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and end the recording here. And thank you, gentlemen, for joining. And have a good rest of your week. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks.
All right.
Nate.
see you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.